Okay, what I'd like to do is, the last couple of lessons, I've been focusing in on the basic skills you should be developing for push hands. Now, we're taking for granted that you've done the form, you've got corrections, you've got a bit of leg strength, and most importantly is leg strength, okay? And that's developed through the form, and whatever is alloyed through the form, I can't describe, but there is a certain kind of property or energy, whatever you want to call it, that does alloy over time and generalizes into the push hands. The push hands itself doesn't really develop, okay, that broad term neigong or inner energy, whatever it is, but the form does alloy that energy, and it's done through mind and intention, awareness, and just basically practice. Remember, I used to do up to 30 forms a day, okay? I did 100 forms a week easily, right? So you can think, you can sort of see how that would develop leg strength. But the leg strength is different than the leg strength you develop in push hands, because when someone's pushing and leaning and putting their weight on you, the form itself doesn't feel the same as that, right? Because you don't have an active partner and you don't feel, any pressure, right? So, Andrew, you haven't been with me for a while, so maybe what I can just describe is the basic skills. Okay, so I'm just taking for granted that people know push hands. Okay, so we're just using single push hands. Okay, so you turn your left foot out, step your right foot inside your partner's right foot, and that's basically, we'll use single hand push hands for it. Okay, so what we do as we go back and forth is describe the big circle, and you're turning your waist. And the basic skill, besides leg strength that you want to get, is relaxation. And relaxation is too hard to explain right now. The concept of sung, relaxation, is a broad term, okay? I'm not going to go into it. But as you go back and forth, what you want to do is stay attached. And I'm not going to use all the Chinese terms like ting, to listen a lot. I'll just say listen, okay? So as you describe the circle going back and forth, you're basically following your partner, okay? You're staying attached, and you're not listening with your ears. Ting means you're listening with your sensitivity. And what you're listening to is direction, force, magnitude, that sort of thing. And staying attached, it's much like you're staying on the surface of a ball, right? You don't want to just use too much power, right? So people that don't know Tai Chi will probably express it in a more like a martial way. Like they'll tend to more like a mixed master. That you've seen this before, right? So they're not really developing ting. They're just sort of doing sort of a neutralization using a similar circle and technique, but they're not really listening, right? So as you go back and forth, you listen, and by doing the form, you're actually getting used to a sort of a constant speed. So there is sort of like a hidden strategy in doing the form, because it's slow and steady, and the speed is slow, right? Generally, in the basic form. So later, when you disengage and you start pushing hands, you can discern a change in speed, right? Even though you may not be able to respond to it right away, you're still listening. And over time, let's say you get caught here, maybe next time you can adjust slightly so you can neutralize, right? So that's how push hands works. So listening, okay, go back to listening. So you're listening, and if the speed changes at any point, you can feel it, right? So if you go a little faster anytime, right? You feel it, right? You get it, right? So I'm sorry, that's gone far now, which is number 4 I want to talk about. First is listening, and then once you're listening, you start to develop the skill of interpreting or comprehending, all the factors. And there's a lot of minutia, right? Force, direction, whatever. Because if Andrew changes his speed, or he goes a different direction, I have to be able to feel it. So if I didn't feel it, I couldn't respond, right? But it has to happen all at once, and you develop that over time by listening, okay? So first you have to be able to listen and not try to win, okay? Basically, you're just going back and forth, and it seems really monotonous, but it has to happen, okay? So you're listening, okay. And then listening leads to comprehending. That means dong, or to be able to just interpret what's happening, right? So you're pushing here, right? If I just use force against it, you would press to me, right? So as we go back and forth, and any time, I don't care. I can feel it, right? So what I've done is I can feel it, and then I can use something like roll back, right? This is roll back to neutralize it to the side, right? So, and then there's all sorts of strategies, right? We talked about, you know, directions and changes in, you know, in angle. We're going to stay fixed, okay? So first listen, and in listening, you develop the skill to listen and then to comprehend. Okay? So sometimes I can feel it, but I can't respond. So the skill now comes from me being able to adjust over time through practice. So I can, right? So I can adjust to the direction and turn my waist. Okay. So listening is first, then to be able to comprehend is second, and then to neutralize. So you have to listen and you have to comprehend the force or the direction or whatever its property is being exerted. And then once you can do that, then you can neutralize. And neutralize means to change the direction or to sink. Like sometimes, like even if you come in to me, I can feel it, and I can sink, right? And then the most easy skill to develop is actually fat, or whatever you want to call it. That means this is actually the easiest. Power. Power is actually easiest. What's more difficult is actually listening, interpreting, and neutralizing. Okay. Fa itself is really simple. Okay. It's a simplest skill, but and generally people tend to gravitate towards that. But it's actually the easiest skill to learn, right? This, you know,